Hi everyone, it's Gene Calderon here again with Gene Calderon Apologetics Ministries, going through our teaching series, our theme days, and today being Tuesday, we are going to look at what we call Tuesday equals Truth Day. And these are the days when we look at the manuscripts, at the evidence of why we believe what the Bible actually says is accurate and true, specifically looking at the New Testament. And today we're going to take a look at the Gospels. One of the questions that's typically out there, one of the objections that's usually out there is, how did the early church come to determine which of the New Testament books would actually be included to have authority and which would be excluded or keeping out of the Bible? And what were some of the qualifications in being able to put together what we call now the New Testament? This is an objection that's brought up many different times in order to look at some of the other manuscripts that may be in existence, that may have some new or different thoughts than what we read about in what we do have, specifically, like I said, with the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We do know that there are some other writings out there. They have some different ideas, and some people will bring up those other manuscripts in order to either, one, bring in some new ideas into the doctrines of the church, or to bring in some different ideas about what we would like to believe, or secondly, to basically say you can't believe any of it because they only picked and choose what they wanted in order to control the people. So those are some of the different objections and why these are brought up. Well, let's take a look at that. One of the first requirements when we're looking at the books that we do have in the Bible is that they are written by someone who's known to have what we call apostolic authority. This means that they would have been written by an apostle, who is someone who was an eyewitness or a follower of an eyewitness to Jesus and the actions that they are writing about, or the accounts that they are writing about. So, for example, when we talk about the Gospels of Mark and Luke, that can raise some controversy because Mark and Luke are not of the original disciples, and they are not apostles because they themselves did not see the risen Jesus. As far as we know, nobody ever claims that they did. But they were writing for two people who did see Jesus risen and would have been considered apostles. And this is why they are the Gospels of Mark and Luke. When we talk about Mark is mentioned in the Bible. He's mentioned in the book of Acts as a follower and a helper of Peter. Now, we all know who Peter is. Peter is the loudmouth guy, the guy that constantly gets a bad rap for being the first one to speak. Okay, so he is a disciple or a follower or a helper of Peter, and all the information that he's writing down is being passed down from Peter, and Peter is an apostle. We do know that for sure. Secondly, when we talk about the Gospel of Luke, we know that Luke was a follower, a helper, an associate, maybe even a disciple of Paul, the Apostle Paul, who was once Shaul or Saul of Tarsus, saw Jesus face to face and became the Apostle Paul. So those two still have the apostolic authority because they are writing for firsthand what they are receiving from the apostles themselves. And secondly, the writings that were put out, they had to agree with what the believers and the eyewitnesses claimed to be true. So in other words, if they wrote down things that the eyewitnesses and the believers looked at and said, no, that's not the way it happened, this is false, they would not have been accepted. But because they were writing to the generation that was there with Jesus, saw him die and raise again, actually saw him teaching and heard his teaching and learned his teaching, they would have been able to look at these things and say, yes, this is accurate. This is something that has authority. And third, the document had to be accepted and actually start to be used by the church in order to share the gospel message throughout the believers that were coming about at that time. See, it's much easier to say that the books of the New Testament were only accepted into the Bible because no one else could stop them from doing that. It's the complete opposite. But again, why would an objection like this come up? Well, first of all, keep in mind, this is a newer argument about the New Testament manuscripts, because those who were closer to the times of the writings never made this claim. They never said that the people were trying to control anything. They were saying that what we have are accurate descriptions of the events themselves. It's probably because there are no other ancient manuscripts or books that could compare with what we have in the Bible when it comes to the importance of Christian history and doctrine. Again, either one, we want to eliminate Christianity. That's what skeptics want to do. Just completely eliminate it and say you can't trust anything. Or they want to change the beliefs. They want to be more accepting of things that we don't accept, such as living sinful lives. plug it in, fill in the blank with whatever it is you want. There are certain things that the Bible say we ought not do. But in order to change that a little bit, in order to better fit the lives that we want to live, we want to compromise and change that. And so you'll start to see some of these objections about what was allowed in the Bible in the first place. Still, the Gospels that we have, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, those are still the best sources that we have when it comes to looking at the history of Jesus. Those 4 Gospels that we have were easily accepted and unanimously considered to be authentic in the accounts that we are given. An example of one of the newer books that people claim should be in the Bible because they want to change some ideas. A discovery was found in 1945 among the several documents in Egypt known as the Nag Hammadi. Out of that came to be what's known as the Gospel of Thomas. And the Gospel of Thomas claims to have the secret words that the living Jesus spoke. It contains about 114 different sayings of Jesus, but it doesn't say anything about what he actually did, just sayings. And so people bring this up because the name Thomas was an apostle by Jesus. Many times we call him the doubting Thomas because he was the last of the remaining 11 disciples who came to put his faith in Jesus once he saw him resurrected, put his fingers in his hands, actually put his hand in his side, things like that. Instead, it was rejected as an authoritative gospel. Why? Well, because there are some thoughts in the Gospel of Thomas that are very different than the 4 Gospels that we find in the Bible. For instance, Jesus says, "If you split the wood, I am there. Lift up a stone and you will find me there." You see, this gives the idea that Jesus was one with the substance of this world, which is what we call pantheism. It's totally opposite of anything we would have learned about in the Gospels. And pantheism is the idea that the tree is God, the rock is God, the chair you're sitting on is God, and one day we'll all become this part of this one thing. And that's pantheistic. That's very much Star Wars, the Force. We all become one with the Force. And that's what the Gospel of Thomas teaches. That's not at all what the Bible teaches us when we read the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. And even more outrageous is the ending of the Gospel of Thomas, talking about Mary Magdalene. It says, "Let Mary go away from us, because women are not worthy of life. Lo, I shall lead her in order to make her a male, so that she too may become a living spirit, resembling you males. For every woman who makes herself male will enter into the kingdom of heaven." You see, this is not the Jesus that we know. It is not accurate to claim that the early church was out there just silencing the Gospel of Thomas in some sort of conspiracy. In fact, the Gospel of Thomas excludes itself. It doesn't fit in with what we know are good, authoritative, early eyewitness testimonies of the events that actually happened. And so to accept it now would be accepting something that is very much less valid than the 4 Gospels that we have. It is mixed up with all of this pantheistic, anti-feminist statements, and so therefore it excluded itself. And so all this to say, when we look at the Bible, when we look at the canon of the Bible, the list of books in the Bible, which is known as canon, was a list of authoritative books. Canon is not an authoritative list of books. The books themselves prove themselves to be authoritative by the writers, by the events and the accounts that were confirmed by eyewitnesses and believers, and were being taught and used in the church to be able to share what everybody knew was actually true. So I hope that helps you when we talk about these different ideas and these different gospels and these different names that are put on these different gospels. By the way, most people don't believe that the Gospel of Thomas was actually written by Thomas. Okay, so different controversy there. But we'll talk about that maybe some other time. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, let us know. But I pray that this blesses you. I pray that we can take confidence in knowing that the scriptures we have are accurate and true. We read them, we love them, and we live by them. So God bless you. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon. Again, Gene Calderon with Gene Calderon Apologetics Ministries, serving at Ratio Christi at Purdue University Northwest or at Freedom Church in East Chicago. We are here to serve. God bless you. Thanks for watching.